everyone, and welcome to another episode of Orga Dies at the End. We're currently in episode 3 of Choice of Zombies by Heather Albino and Richard Jackson. You can check out their game at choiceofgames.com if you ever want to try it yourself. Ready to go, Orga?
Yes, I am.
Before long, the radio crackles into life. News has reached us this hour of a riot at the Cedar Junction Correctional Facility. An escapee reports that a refugee infested with zombieism somehow slipped past the quarantine procedures and managed to infect several occupants. Efforts at lockdown and containment having proven unsuccessful, the refugees once quartered here have abandoned the facility. We repeat, the Cedar Junction Correctional Facility is no longer a viable location for zombie apocalypse refugees. The Maple Valley Mall and First Church of Fulton are still accepting refugees. I knew we should have gone to the church, Justin says. We should go now. Mall's the best bet, Ryan says. Looks like it's up to you. Where do you want to go? The mall or the church?
Yeah, fuck Justin. We're going to the mall. He's a whiny bitch.
He is. You head for the mall. Justin sulks. The setting sun glints off the high skylights of Maple Valley Mall as you pull into its parking lot. There are a few cars parked near the entrance. Towards the outer edge of the lot, a bus is parked in an awkward diagonal across the several spaces. You stop the car near the main entrance, but nothing happens. You look around. You try to see through the glass. It seems oddly quiet to you. Shouldn't they have lookouts or something? They certainly should, Brian says grimly. You hadn't realized he'd known what you were thinking. You honk the horn. A few minutes later, a woman's face appears in the window. Shouting through the glass, she tells you to drive around the loading dock in the back. You find it with no trouble. A paved downward slope leads from the back lot to the huge steel double doors built into the ground. No one's there to meet you. You wait. It's creepy. Finally, one of the steel doors opens. A female eye and the barrel of a shotgun appear. Brian nods approvingly. The middle-aged woman checks for the zombies in the parking lot before opening the door wide enough to let you in. Are any of you doctors? She demands in greeting. No, you say. I'm afraid not. What's going on? That bus in front brought people hurt in a big traffic accident in Fulton. Some of them are pretty bad. We put them in the mattress store, and we're doing what we can, but nobody here has such medical training. I was just hoping... Well, never mind. Come on in. The woman, who introduces herself as Mary, leads you through the basement, up the stairs, and into the mall proper. Up ahead you can see the place with squishy chairs that seems to grow organically in the middle of every shopping mall. It's lit with bright and happy artificial mall lake. It smells like coffee, and it's full of tents and people sitting outside of tents chatting. You start to relax at the sight, and then the unmistakable sound of zombie moans reaches your ears. The moans are coming from the storefront just ahead, and to the left, between you and the squishy chair area. What are you going to do? Hide behind Brian? Hide behind Mary? Grab something to use as a weapon and charge in? Or sprint in the other direction?
Grabbing a battle axe and charging in.
It's not going to be a battle axe, Orga.
No, we're in a mall. They might have a battle axe. You know how crazy malls have.
How many malls
have, like,
do you know have a battle axe store? That's retarded.
I'm pretty sure there's a couple of them down in the south.
Are we in the south?
I mean, they've got, like, bazookas in malls.
Bazooka stores?
You know?
What kind of malls have you been to?
The good kind.
I'll have to know. Like, I have to go to these stores. No, hey, wait. It's okay. It's okay, Mary says. Amusement and sympathy struggle for dominance in her voice. Sorry, I should have warned you. I know what that sounds like. You're the first to arrive since we set up the... What did you call it, Scott? Simulation tank? A new voice says at your right elbow. You jump around to find where it belongs to a man about Mary's age, dressed in uniform of mall security. The teenage kids are there now, playing zombie games. Seemed like it could be, well, useful and less hazardous than an actual shooting range. Your heart is still pounding in your ears, adrenaline singing through your veins. Not zombies, you tell yourself. Not zombies. Zombie games. Which they didn't feel it necessary to warn you about. What are you going to do? I relieve my tension by yelling at Mary. I take a deep breath and express my displeasure at not being warned in a calm and reasoned manner. Or I let it go.
I'm still gonna complain a bit. Number 2.
An admirable demonstration of restraint and diplomacy. One that Brian ruins in the next moment. Aside from which, it's a stupid thing to do. You don't startle a man with a gun. I really am sorry, Mary says, expression completely contrite now, all trace of amusement gone. It was thoughtless. She waits until she receives a stiff nod of acknowledgement from both of you, accepting the apology, before she says, about startling a man with a gun. Brian's face goes blank. You better not be expecting me to hand it over. Of course not. We cleaned out the hunting session of the sporting goods store, and anyone who can handle a gun can have one. But since a couple of people brought kids, we have to be very careful where we keep the guns and ammunition, so... Brian makes a rude sound. That kind of coddling gets you nowhere. You should teach them up front that a gun is not a toy, and then you don't have a problem. That's what's wrong in modern society. Mary stares at him. Maybe, but that's the society we've got to work with. Please unload your gun and store the ammunition separately. Brian almost laughs. Great way to get caught without a working firearm when the zombies attack. I'm not handing you my gun, and I'm not leaving it unloaded. Hey, Mary fixes him with a glare. There's no need to be so rude. You're not in charge here. We voted on these rules before you got here. I should be in charge here. None of you have any idea what you're doing. Are you going to step in? Yes, back up Brian. Yes, back up Mary, or hell no.
Yeah, I'm backing up Brian.
Back up Brian, 'cause Murica.
Murica.
How are you going to do it? I speak gently to Mary, or I speak sharply to Mary.
Oh, there's not the option to point a gun at her?
So you want to speak sharply to her then?
No, I'll speak softly and carry a big gun.
Yes. You take Mary aside. This is really an identity thing for Brian. You know, I know he's kind of an asshole, but he really knows his stuff, and he's a great resource. Do you think he could make an exception for it? No, Mary says. No, I can't compromise on this. It's a matter of safety for the kids. She looks at Brian. I'm sorry, but you're not willing to abide by our gun safety rules, and you're not welcome to stay here. Suits me fine, Brian says. I'll do better on my own. He storms for the door. At this point, Scott, the security guy, pipes up, Brian, wait, where will you go? Anywhere but here, says Brian, and then he pauses for a minute to consider the question. Somewhere isolated. Scott shakes his head. I obviously can't stop you, but without a plan, Damari's Cove Island is isolated, suggests Mary. Damari's Cove it is, says Brian. He turns and leaves. Do you want to go with him? Yes, he's my best chance of survival, or no.
Yeah, I'm going with Brian.
Leaving your companions behind? Yes, they were slowing us down, or no, I call for them to come too.
God, do I bring along the whiny brat and the tag-along kid, or leave them behind? Well, I did shoot the kid's sister in the face, might as well bring him along.
Fair enough, I guess. Brian seems surprised to see you following him. Can't stand those little tin-plated dictators either? Nope. I knew there was something about you I liked. Alright then. You get in the car with him. He seems to be reading a map he pulled out of the glove compartment. I'm not gonna stay in another refugee camp run by a committee, he says. But where else can we go? Damari's Cove Island, says Brian, pointing to the map. It's a small island not far from Fulton. We'll head to the docks and steal a boat. So the two of you head for Fulton Docks to steal a boat that will take you to safety. Early the following morning, you hear a report on the radio at the Maple Valley Mall refugee group that was overrun by zombies that appear to have taken it from the inside. You remember there was no quarantine procedures when Mary let you in. Mickey Mouse operation, definitely. Brian does not express any regret, grief, or guilt at the people massacred there, and does not ask whether you feel any. Only you know if you do. You arrive at the outskirts of Fulton just before dawn. Making your way to the wharf, just through a city lit only by street lamps and pre-dawn light, not to mention potentially crawling with zombies, is going to be pretty difficult. That, or it's going to be a lot of fun. It all depends on how you look at it. You figure out the direct path to the wharf is straight from Main Street. The less time spent out in the open, the less chance you'll become snack food. You slowly navigate the outer roads of Fulton until you hit Main Street. So far, so good. No signs of the living, or the dead. Maybe the zombies have eaten everyone out of house and home and headed out of town. You can hope, right? The car's engine sounds horribly loud as you roll gently onward. Main Street takes a curve to the right where there seems to have been an accident. Probably folks trying to get out of Dodge and not being too careful about their driving, just like any other day. Several cars looked like they tried to swerve around the mess, but they ended up widening the mess across the entire road. This is probably the accident that hurt the patients you met at Maple Valley Mall. Past the stranded vehicles, you can see the ferry building, and aside from the cars, there is nothing between you and the wharf. There's no way around this mess, you murmur to yourself. You think about it. One option is to ditch the car and just walk to the wharf. It isn't that far. Go back to the last cross street, Brian orders. Make sure there's no other way around. We have absolutely sure we have no other options before we leave the car behind. Right, so what are you going to do? Go back and try the other way, or ditch the car and leg it?
I guess we'll try back the other way.
Seems like a good plan. You put the car in reverse, swing around, and head around to Elliott Street. The air feels warmer down this way, even through the windshield, which is odd. You turn right onto Elliott. Before you're all the way around the corner, you see the reason for the heat. Orange flames arc up to the sky. About 100 yards down from Elliott, a gasoline tanker delivering fuel to the local service station is on fire. The roaring inferno has engulfed the street. It's pretty sure you're not going that way. In the other direction, Elliott Street runs for another 250 yards before vanishing around the corner. The road looks clear up that corner. No, hang on, there's movement up there. Could be an animal, could be a zombie. Do you want to continue or go back to Main Street? Continue down Elliott and see what's down there. Or, I'd rather avoid any trouble. There's no movement on Main Street, so I'm heading back.
Yeah, I'm gonna head back.
You turn to Brian. I don't want to attract any more attention than we have to. There might be something at the end of the road, and I'm betting it's not a stray dog. We're getting back to Main. You take the car back to accident scene on Main Street. You quietly get out of the car and begin winding your way between the stranded vehicles, looking carefully into each one. Carefully, because this would be about the time in those movies when a zombie comes piling out of nowhere crying out in hunger. As you pass a small Toyota, there's a sudden flurry of activity from the rear seat. You see tiny little hands rapping on the rearview window. Wow, you think. Someone actually left their baby in the car and split. Are you going to rescue it? Hell no. Could be infected. Or, yes, of course, it would be unthinkable to leave it there.
Hell no, that's a zombie baby. Fuck that shit.
You're gonna bring the tag-along kid with you, but not the tag-along baby. I see where you draw the line.
No, it's not a real baby. It's a zombie. We all know it's a zombie.
We don't know
it's a trap!
But, okay.
It's a trap!
A completely reasonable choice, if perhaps a little cold-hearted. You keep going. There's a faint noise coming from the directions of the cars behind you. You hope at first it's just a baby tantrum as you turn to check. There's a zombie horde you were half expecting, 24 at least, trailing feathers and pieces of half-eaten pigeon, rapidly making their way over the abandoned cars. Now what? Hey, Brian says, we could shoot the propane tanks on that truck over there. That ought to fry 'em all. I run, I grab a spade from the pickup truck to my right and start burying zombies, or I tell Brian to shoot the propane tanks.
Shoot the propane tank.
Propane tanks and propane tank accessories we go. As the horde comes running out from the tangled cars and past the truck, Brian carefully sights his gun and fires. The explosion knocks you and Brian off your feet. Your hair is singed, and it feels like you could have an instant tan, but that's a small price to pay. You raise an arm over to cover your head. Bits of zombie rain down, splattering all over the road and you. You realize that the stunt is going to attract every zombie in a 10-mile radius, so it's time to move. You run into the dollar store and slam the doors behind you. You're safe now, but those glass doors aren't going to last very long when the rest of them come. You look through the store to the rear, where the back doors leads into a quiet and deserted alley. You stand in the dollar store in the middle of the infested city. You open the back door and very quietly step outside. The alley seems to serve several shops along here, but you can't quite make out whether it's enclosed or not. You and Brian edge quietly down the alley. After the dollar store, you pass the rear stores of a pizza place, a hair salon, a Starbucks. Damn, you could really use a strong coffee right about now. From the alley behind you, you hear the sound of smashing glass. You and Brian rapidly cover the remaining distance in the alley, which ends with a rather imposing wall, about 10 feet high. Not something you could easily climb over, but maybe, particularly if Brian gave you a boost. The faint but distinctive sound of crashing glass funnels up the alleyway. It sounds like something is making its way into your alley, which is probably not good. You quickly turn around. There's plenty of debris on the ground, and several pretty pungent trash bags, some of them half torn open with their contents adding to the mess. The last door is to a pharmacy, but a quick try of the handle says it's locked. However, above the pharmacy door is a louvered window. The plastic looks thoroughly weathered and sun-baked. If you could bust out of one of those louvers, you could probably be able to unlock the door somehow. Maybe if you could find something in the trash to jiggle the door handle on the other side. As you consider your options, the unwelcome sound of moaning reaches your ears. You turn your head in time to see 3 zombies trundle around the corner to the far end of the alley. Another 3 appear behind them. Oh crap, you think. What's a zombie apocalypse survivor to do? Before you answer your next choice, Orga, we are out of time. Yup, we have to wait till next week to record our next session of Orga Dies at the end. What do you think?
Well, that's a really big fucking cliffhanger right there. Just leave me stuck at the end of an alley with a bunch of zombies rushing in.
It'll keep everyone coming back, though.
Yeah, that's true. This kind of feels like one of those old TV serials. Will Robo Jetpack Man escape from the lava slide of doom? Tune in next time to find out, children.
You heard the man. Tune in next time.
Goodbye, everybody.